This is the Ben Mulroney Show, and this is the midpoint of the midweek version of This Week in Politics with Andy and Regan, which means it's time for a segment that we only started recently, but we already love.
It's time for the political play of the week.
Regan, you're up first, my friend.
I have to tell you that intro will never, ever, ever get old, and I love it. So I actually have two. I have a good and a bad. All right, my bad play of the week is for Major League Baseball in denying John Schneider, the Toronto Blue Jays manager, AL Manager of the Year. He had an outstanding performance. The team was amazing. The guy who won it was a manager for the Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians had players who bet against themselves. The Toronto Blue Jays had players who bet on themselves. And I think there's a clear difference there. And Schneid's got robbed, in my view. And hopefully the Jays bring it back.
I would point out. And first of all, it's the Guardians, a point of order. But secondly, I think you're right. But I think the way I look at it, and I don't have this information, but I would look at what the expectations were for both teams prior to the beginning of the season. I suspect that the expectations on the Jays were far lower than the Guardians.
The Jays finished last place and then ended up winning the American League East and were the top team in the AL. Anyway, Major League Baseball, I don't want to accuse it of an anti-Toronto or anti-Canada bias, but we should look into that.
Okay.
My good play of the week, though, is actually a member of Parliament from Simcoe North, a gentleman by the name of Adam Chambers.
Yeah.
You know, Adam was interviewed on CBC this weekend, a bit of a gotcha interview, or it could have been, in the questions he was asked around Mr. Poilievre. I thought he handled himself miraculously well. He's a very intelligent man. He's an outstanding parliamentarian. And for your listeners on the radio and your viewers on YouTube, spend some time paying attention to Adam. If the Conservative Party hopefully someday will ever form government, Adam will almost certainly go into cabinet. He's a generational talent and a very, very intelligent man and a great politician. And I thought he had a very good week among very few in the Conservative Party who did.
Yeah, I've gotten to know Adam a little bit over the years, spent some time with him in Ottawa, and I agree with you. I think I like the cut of his jib, as my dad used to say. All right, Andy, time for your play of the week.
Yeah, mine is the resilience of Premier Doug Ford, Ben. So this week, David Coletto put out an abacus poll that measured where Doug Ford is 3 majorities later and 8 years as Premier. So just a reminder for your listeners, Bill Davis did not win 3 straight majorities. So after 8 years in power, Doug Ford has 51% support compared to 23 and 19. He leads in all major regions. He leads with men and women. He leads with young and old. And this popularity and this track record puts him next to the Ralph Kleins and Peter Lougheeds of this world. So the resilience of Doug Ford and his support cross-sectional after 8 years and dispensing all kinds of leaders of the opposition is the political play of the week. And it's historically unbelievable where he is.
Well, let's spend some time on that if we can, because I think we all have some opinions on it. To what then, Regan, do you attribute the longevity and the popularity at this point in his government, which should be long in the tooth? What do you attribute it to? How much of it is him? How much of it is opposition parties that either are still trying to cast off the bad feelings that voters have, like they do of the Ontario Liberals, and the NDP that just can't seem to coalesce around anything and drive the numbers up?
I think part of it, Ben, is circumstance, and the Premier is benefiting from, by the way, in the same way that Jean Chrétien did, an ineffective, futile opposition. However, and I have to say, you know, the Premier, for me, is a story of resilience, as Andy says. I think his strength and why he continues to remain popular, though, is because he's not afraid to admit he's made mistakes or make changes. Yep. And I think in an era where people are looking at politicians dimly as they ever have, to have a Premier come out, even if he's made some boneheaded moves, he admits it, he acknowledges it, and he changes course and course corrects. You know, here's the guy, the Premier goes to Home Depot on Saturday mornings. Anybody in Etobicoke will know this. He'll go and do his own Doug Ford polls, talk to people in the aisles of Home Depot and ask how things are going. Yeah. You know, and how can you not have a pulse on the people if you continue to do that kind of thing? So for me, it's his ability to apologize, recognize when he's made a mistake. It's his ability to listen to people, and he's governed relatively well. I mean, the Ontario government released their fall statement, I think it was last week, maybe it was this week. They're basically on track to do a balanced budget in the next couple of years, which is remarkable considering the economic turmoil that Ontario is in, thanks to President Trump and the tariffs and the pressure that those tariffs are putting on the Ontario economy.
And one observation about the Home Depot polls, I mean, he told me a story when we were in conversation, at the Empire Club that, that he accosted a shoplifter and told that story. And that went wide, but a lot of politicians on the opposite side of the House of Queen's Park took issue and said, oh, he probably broke the law and he should be charged. I was like, you guys aren't getting it. Like, he knows how to talk to people. When he told that story, he connected with so many people who wish they could have been in that position with him. They would have helped the premier in that moment. And to turn it around and say, oh, he must have violated someone's charter rights, that's why you're going to keep losing to this guy, because he gets it. He knows how to connect. All right, somebody who has connected, he's our prime minister, and it looks like he's set to deliver even more good news on the front of building the projects that are hopefully going to make this country more successful, more prosperous, more fair. It's expected that Mark Carney is going to add at least 4 mining and energy developments to his government's major projects list. And that's happening tomorrow. So I think a lot of us are going to be paying attention to that. This is according to the Globe and Mail. And so what they're suggesting is a liquefied natural gas project in BC, Ontario's Crawford Nickel Project, New Brunswick's Sisson Mine, and a hydroelectric project in Iqaluit. These are the things I was hoping to see, Andy. I was hoping these big projects that are finally going to unlock the bounty that God anointed this country with.
Yeah, and he told you, I think, and he told Canadians, just be a little bit patient. We're going to add to this list. So I think that's going to be a good day tomorrow. But the question still remains, Ben, how many of these projects, so what he's saying is these projects are going to be referred to the major projects office. They're going to expedite review and cut through red tape and all these things. But Canadian business leaders are still saying we need that for the entire business environment in this country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm kind of waiting for that part to be addressed. Yes, it's great. These projects are being referred. But again, the other thing I'm watching out for is if it took 10 years to get a permit to build a terminal at the port of Vancouver, how long will it take under this office? How long would this nickel mine have taken before the office? Yeah. How long will it take with the office? We're missing some of that scrutiny by the media. I'm not saying it's bad or not worthy, but there's lots of legitimate questions about these projects and what is actually going to be achieved in the public interest and what is going to be expedited. Yeah. I think those are legitimate questions to ask.
Regan, I'm going to let you take us to the break, but Sean Speer, the editor-at-large of the hub.ca, I think rightly and fairly criticized the fast-tracking of the major projects office, because to recognize that a need to fast-track acknowledges that the underpinnings of the system are designed to work far slower for everybody else.
So a couple things. One, Ben, you led this segment in asking if Carney was Santa Claus. And I'll just remind your listeners that while he has me purring, he is also, in fact, from the Northwest Territories, which is not too far from the North Pole. So he might be
very well be Santa. Yes,
there might be some lineage between Santa Claus and the Prime Minister. Right. Your question, though, with respect to Major Project Management Office and Sean's comments, and Sean's an intelligent man, and I like a lot of what he has to say. But the fact is, we live in a society where there is lots and lots and lots of government, and it, having a project office like this, I think, is a signal that, because by the way, the Conservative Party had one when they were last in power as well, that the system is what it is, and we need to find ways to break through the system. I'm a little surprised that there's only 4 projects on this latest list. I expected more, and I know that your listeners and viewers from Alberta are saying, "Where's the pipeline?" Yep. I suspect that's being worked on.
Yeah.
And that'll come in due course. The big question for me is, as Andy says, how long can they communicate how long things would have taken and how short they would be under this new approach? And I guess we'll wait to hear the announcement and wait to be seen.
Indeed. Hey, guys, as always, love chatting with you. Thank you so much for another great panel. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching the show. Now, if you enjoyed what you saw, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of The Ben Mulroney Show.